Hello and welcome. I'm DDF Racer and today I'm going to be explaining why pit stop presets are so important. Picture this scenario. You're in the middle of a race having an epic battle with the car behind you. They've got the pace, but you're holding them off. Suddenly, they dive into the pits for fresh tyres. They're going for the undercut. You have to react, so you request a pit stop. But you forgot how much of a pain in the arse the in-car pit menu is. Okay then, soft tyres. No, hards. Want hards. Okay. Right, I'm not going to make it to the end on fuel at least anyway, so I need to put some... Oh, I missed the apex. 20 litres ought to do it. Come on. Okay, cool. There we go. Ready. Oh, I lost half a second there at least. Okay, and pit stop requested. Get on the limiter ready. Just slow it down, slow it down, slow it down. Hopefully, we didn't lose too much time there. We can get back out ahead of that guy. Damage? Suddenly, you remember you tapped the wall lightly 2 laps into the race. It hasn't affected the handling, but your mechanics are there, spending 20 seconds fixing something that doesn't need to be fixed. You hear your opponents driving by the other side of the pit wall, still you wait. Finally, the lollipop goes up. You come out of the pits, disconsolate, several spots down, and out of contention. All of this can be avoided by taking a little bit of time before the race to get your pit stop preset sorted. You're going to save yourself the hassle of trying to work out the strategy on the fly as you're trying to nail the perfect in-lap. It's going to save you so much time. Now, I am going to be using Automobilista 2 as an example here, but that doesn't mean this advice is limited to just this sim. This applies to any sim where you can set up pit stop presets. For example, in Automobilista 2, you can access your pit stop presets by going to Edit Setup and then Pit Strategy. But in Race Room, you find them here under Pit Stop Presets. In AMS2, you're going to get an overview of all your different presets, although there's none here at the moment, but that actually gives you an estimate of how long those pit stops are going to take. Whereas in Race Room, you need to request a pit stop whilst out on track to see your estimated stop time. In AMS2, your pit stops are saved per car, so well worth it if you drive a particular car frequently. However, in Race Room, your presets are saved globally across all cars. Now, this next bit is going to take a few minutes, but trust me, it's worth it. You'll want to create a preset to change tyres only, no fuel, no damage, for each of the compounds available. And for example, this McLaren F1 GTR has got soft tyres, hard tyres, and wet tyres. So let's create a new pit strategy for each one, and let's call them soft only, hard only, and wet only. Keep in mind that at the moment you're currently unable to change your tyre pressures mid-race using the in-car pit menu, which does seem like a little bit of an oversight. Hopefully they get that fixed. So it's always a good idea to run some test laps in advance. Make sure your presets are in the right tyre pressure range, especially for wet tyres, as you're usually going to run them a little bit different to keep the temperature in them. The reason for disabling damage like this is to avoid sitting around in the pits fixing things that don't need to be fixed, especially for those longer races where you may have accumulated a little bit of engine damage or brake damage or just a small knock on the suspension that doesn't actually affect how the car handles. You can often drive around these issues without losing much lap time at all, and the repair time just isn't worth it. If it's serious damage from some kind of major collision, then you're not going to be driving back to the pits at full speed anyway, so you're going to have time to play around with the pit menu and turn these damage repairs back on. Next, you're going to want to set up some fuel presets. These are going to be specific to your race and depend entirely upon your fuel numbers. You can work your fuel numbers out with a little bit of prep and a calculator. First things first, run some practice laps at race pace and watch your fuel numbers. Around 5 consistent, clean laps should do it. You need to keep an eye on roughly how much fuel you're using per lap on average. Now, you can either do this by using the built-in heads-up display, or you can use a third-party tool like SimHub or Crew Chief. Once you have this number, it depends on whether your race is going to be timed or determined by number of laps. If it's laps, then it's easy. All you have to do is multiply your average fuel number by the number of laps in the race. So for this example, 12 laps at 3.4 litres gives you 40.8 litres. That's your fuel number. If it's a timed race, then it does get a little bit tricky because you need to calculate how many laps you expect the race to be. Take your total session time in minutes and multiply it by 60 to convert it to seconds. So in this instance, a 65-minute race gives us 3,900 seconds. Then divide it by your rough lap time in seconds to work out roughly how many laps you're going to run. So in this instance, I'm running 206s, so divide that by 126, which gives us 30.9. Round that up to a whole number, so in this example 31 laps, times that by your fuel number, and there you go, 105.4 litres. Either way, you might want to add on an extra lap or two, just to be safe. Also, something to be aware of regarding your fuel is wet weather. Generally, you use less fuel when it rains, which will help you stretch out your fuel numbers, especially if it's a timed race, since your laps are going to be slower and you won't get as many total laps in. Now that you have this total fuel number, it depends on how you're going to approach the race. If your tank is big enough and you don't need to change tyres, then fill her up and she's done. No more presets. However, if you're not going to make it on fuel, then you're going to need some more options. Remember, you want to try and spend as little time stationary as possible, and this is another reason why I love Automobilista 2, because it gives you an estimated time. If you think your tyres are going to last the whole distance, then you're going to need a new preset called Fuel Only. Whether you want to split your tank 50-50 and run lighter at the start, or maybe just put a little bit in so you can splash the car at the end of the race, it's entirely your choice. From experience though, the majority of the time it is actually better to go for the splash option, because generally the few tenths you might save here and there running light at the start of the race don't add up to the several extra seconds it takes stationary at the pit stop putting more fuel in. However, if you don't think your tyres are going to make it to the end of the race, then it's time to create a new group of presets, one for each compound with your desired fuel level. So now we have Fuel Soft, Fuel Hard, and Fuel Wet. Now, something to keep in mind is whether or not your car can be refueled at the same time as it takes tyres. For example, in this GT1 McLaren, you can do just that, so it is an absolute no-brainer to maximise the fuel you can put in at the stop and run lighter at the start of the race. So for this example, watch the estimate here. As I add the fuel in, I'm not actually increasing the time because tyres are being changed at the same time. So I've worked out now that I can put in, there we go, 41 litres without costing myself any extra time. Compared to the 12 I was going to put in, that's basically extra fuel I can take out at the start and run lighter with no disadvantage whatsoever. And finally, if you need more than one stop in a race, you're going to have to fill the tank at some point, and predictably, you guessed it, this means another group of presets. You are going to be limited to 10 pit stop presets. Now, because of the system that I'm using, I'm already at 8, and we're going to need Tank Only, Tank Soft, there's your 10, Tank Hard, and Tank Wet. So that's going to be 12 pit stop presets in total, which is not going to work because, like I said, we're limited to 10 here. So unfortunately, we're going to have to deal with the in-car pit menu at some point. So to get around this, what I do is create a new pit stop preset called Tank Only, fill that up with fuel, and leave the tyres blank because, yeah, as long as you get your full tank in, you're going to have to mess around with the in-car pit menu to select your tyres. Unfortunately, there is no way around that. Thinking about it now, it actually makes more sense to modify your fuel only, fuel soft, fuel hard, and fuel wet strategies, because then you'll keep your tyre pressures, and that will make a lot more sense than having a tank-only preset, which is going to have your fixed tyre pressures. Because like I said before, in Automobilista 2, you can't change your tyre pressures on the fly in the pit car menu. Really should have thought of that before I started recording this video. Pro YouTuber moves right there. So, if you followed this guide, you should have the following presets in the following logical order. Soft only, hard only, wet only, fuel only. Fuel soft, fuel hard, fuel wet, tank only. Having this many presets might seem like a little bit of overkill, but you honestly you got no idea what the race is going to throw at you. Being able to react quickly in the moment with the capacity to actually think about the strategy without taking your concentration off the road and play around with the pit menu could be what gives you the advantage over your competition. Even for planned pit stops, it saves so much stress knowing that all you have to do is select a preset and request a pit stop. You've already done all of the hard work from the comfort of the menu before the race even started. No messing around with fuel levels, tyre choice, and damage repairs whilst trying to, actually drive the car on the limit and battle tooth and nail for position at the same time. Ain't nobody got time for that. If you found this video useful, then please make sure to leave it a like, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to see me, actually go sim racing and put all of this pit stop stuff into action. Until then, you look after yourselves. Thanks for watching.